Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. It's Duality 7X. I'm your host, Shiraz. And I got some updates for you guys today. I think some updates that are definitely worth talking about right now. Actually, I want to talk about Ilia Topuria. And this guy, he just doesn't seem to quit when it comes to calling out Terence Crawford, the new undisputed middleweight champion of the world. In case you guys missed it, we probably seen one of the fights of the century, at least in this era. I mean, we had Canelo Alvarez taking on Terence Bud Crawford for pretty much everything but the kitchen sink. And long story short, if you guys have been watching this channel, if you guys have been checking out my videos and just even watching the news, you guys would have known that we witnessed history, and Terence Crawford beat Canelo Alvarez in a decision and is now the undisputed middleweight champion of the world. And I mean everything. When I say everything but the kitchen sink, I mean everything. All the titles are pretty much on the line. But you know, I'll tell you what, these guys are both very classy fighters, Canelo and Terence Crawford. In fact, after the fight, during the post-conference, Terence Crawford actually gave back some of those belts out of good gesture to Canelo Alvarez. Now, there's a lot of news, a lot of drama that's coming out of this. Not drama between the fighters, but about what happens next between both of these fighters, respectively, against different opponents. And of course, you know, we're not going to rule out a possibility of a rematch between these two iconic legends, but everybody is also talking about new opponents for these guys. And Ilia Topuria, a UFC pound for pound, probably one of the greatest ever, is taking shots at Terence Crawford. And you know, it's just the timing, guys. I mean, you know, with Terence Crawford just coming off probably one of the biggest wins of his career, he now remains undefeated. He's accomplished what no other male boxer has done before, which is being able to capture titles in 3 different weight classes. And in preparation for this fight, he had to move up 2 weight classes just to take on Saul Alvarez, and he did the unthinkable, guys, and he ended up walking out of Allegiant Stadium as the new king of boxing. And then you got Ilia Topuria, who's calling out the man himself, Terence Crawford. Now, there's a little bit of context to this, right? While the world is still a-buzzing after what happened this past weekend, I want to break down why this matters and why this is important, because you have to understand now, ever since Dana White has teamed up with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh and Paramount Pictures, and you know, Dana White with Zuffa Entertainment, UFC. You got Nick Khan, who's the CEO of the World Wrestling Entertainment, TKO Holdings. Ever since these guys have got together, they're unstoppable, and you're gonna see a crossover of different genres of sport coming together. Right? When I talk about different crossover fans, we're talking about the UFC, the world of MMA, boxing, and the WWE all kind of coming into one. So there is going to be a little bit of that crossover happening. And so, and it's interesting, right? Because now you got Brock Lesnar, who's come back to the WWE. Is there a possibility of a return for the Beast, perhaps maybe in the Octagon? I mean, I'm not going to rule out anything at this point. I mean, there's so many storylines coming out of this. It's absolutely crazy and exciting at the same time, right? And so whether now, when you got the likes of Ilia Topuria, who's again, I said, even Ben Askren recently said that he's probably pound for pound one of the greatest fighters right now in the UFC. And when he's calling out the new crown champion, Terence Crawford, there's a possibility there could be a crossover there. So if that's a setup, what an amazing setup. Topuria is still undefeated at 17-0. Terence Crawford is undefeated as well. And for Topuria not even wasting a second and calling out Crawford and calling his victory over Canelo, or questioning his victory over Canelo, because I mean I guess he's a little hurt by the fact that that Crawford actually came out to to his song, this mariachi song, the song that was featured in Desperado, and with Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek, and that was a beautiful song, guys. By the way, I was actually surprised that he came out to that song, but Topuria went on social media and boldly claimed that he'd knock out Crawford with his very first punch if they ever boxed. And of course, Crawford, when asked about it, laughed it off, called him delusional, and even said that he was probably drunk. So yeah, it's interesting, right? And I mean, just kind of thinking back, again, when Crawford came out to that song, Canción del Mariachi, I believe that was the title of the song, the same song that Topuria walks out to for his UFC entrances. When people asked about the connection, Crawford just kind of brushed it off. But Topuria, for whatever reason, really took it to heart, and he took it very personal. And now he's doubling down and wants a boxing showdown. Now, I mean, if a guy like Crawford comes out to that beat, to that song, and ends up winning like he did, I mean, doesn't he pay homage to the song and isn't that kind of like a respectful thing? But Topuria, on the other hand, he doesn't see it the same way. And I love the confidence, right? I mean, I remember when Kamaru Usman was talking about wanting to take on Canelo, and Dana White immediately just squashed that. I mean, Dana White wasn't having any of it. It's not that he didn't have confidence in Kamaru Usman, the UFC fighter. I just don't think he had confidence in him as a boxer taking on Canelo, right? And then in this case, what do you say? You have a guy like Topuria, and a lot of these UFC fighters, they're trained in the different arts, right? And so Topuria obviously has been training as a boxer, as a wrestler, a grappler, as a mixed martial artist, understanding judo and all the different special arts when it comes to mixed martial arts. And for him to be able to wanting to walk down this path for an eventual showdown with Terence Crawford just talks about not only this guy's ability and skills as a fighter, but his confidence. So he obviously feels confident in his ability and his craft to be able to go toe-to-toe with Crawford as a boxer, not even as a UFC fighter, but as a boxer. And so that's what makes all this so much more interesting, because now and it's not like Topuria is just like some up-and-comer or B-class, C-class fighter. I mean, this guy's a real deal. And his name has been put forward for a lot of big upcoming matches. So this is something that you have to actually take it very serious, right? Now, Topuria is a monster when it comes to the octagon, when it comes to the cage, right? But crossing over to box, yeah, he trains, boxing is integrated into his training, of course, but so is all the other special arts. But for him to go into a legit, full-on, blown boxing fight with probably one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of our era could be a big mistake. Crawford's not just a fighter, he's a technician. He's a master at the craft of boxing. And it's a whole different animal to go 3 rounds times 12, potentially 10, 12 round fight. And again, UFC fighters, absolutely incredible. They're gifted, probably some of the best athletes on the planet. They are trained to go 5 minutes, 5 rounds. That's 25 minutes right there. But they're trained to go longer than that, right? So I'm not questioning the stamina. I'm just questioning. In a UFC fight, you get a little bit of stand up, you get a little bit of grappling. Look in Duplessis and Khamzat's fight. Duplessis wanted to go toe to toe. He wanted to do some stand up fighting, but Khamzat just took him down every single time. For most of that fight, he dominated the fight on the ground, it just didn't even give him a chance to get up and do what he wanted to do. Whereas in this case, Topuria won't be able to resort to that. He won't be able to take him down and take him to the canvas and do any kind of ground and pound or anything like that. He's going to have to stand toe to toe with him, either in southpaw or an orthodox stance, or even a hybrid of both. But he's not. I mean, that's really all he can do, and he'll have to box. So the question comes down to is Topuria conditioned enough to be able to not even withstand the assault that could potentially happen from Crawford, and vice versa. I mean, Topuria is a very good fighter himself, but will he be able to carry himself through like 10 to 12 rounds in a boxing match against a monster, a beast like Crawford? All right, and look, Crawford, coming off that legendary performance that I keep alluding to, now being undisputed in a third division. He's not just a boxer. This guy is legendary. He's generational talent. And as much as I love Topuria and the fighter that he is, he needs to do a little bit more to prove to me that he's also generational as well. Now, Topuria thinks Dana White can be convinced to greenlight this fight. Kind of like McGregor versus Mayweather back in 2017. But Dana has already said he's not really into doing UFC versus boxing crossovers anymore. But that, I don't know if I'm going to take him to his word, because now with this new partnership, I think there's a possibility we are going to see some crossovers. But then again, everything comes down to gate, money, marketing, and will it sell? Right? I mean, will Topuria versus Crawford, if Topuria does a little bit more in the octagon and proves himself to be like pound for pound the king of the octagon, I think there's a possibility we could see that fight actually coming to some kind of fruition anytime soon. I don't know. And that's kind of what goes against Topuria, because in the meantime, he's going to be battling very soon. Crawford is just kind of probably reevaluating everything right now. He's probably going to even have to decide whether or not he wants to continue doing what he does. And it's not that he can't. He 100% can. Even at his age now, at coming close to the age of 38, he's starting to get up there in age. But again, that I'm not even talking about his age here. I'm just talking about he's done everything that he's had to in the sport of boxing, and money is not the ultimate catalyst anymore for Crawford, because he has money, and more importantly, he's built a legacy. He just came off the biggest fight of his career, and he's undefeated. Does he want to really tarnish that legacy for taking on anyone now after this point? I mean, he might, but now it's probably going to come down to like, okay, are we talking 50 million, 75, maybe $100 million? Maybe that's what might entice him to kind of come out and to start fighting again. And not that Crawford has resigned or anything of that sort. I haven't seen or heard or anything like that. No news out there that's circulating. So apologize if I'm giving off vibes that he might be retiring. But at this point, he's done everything that he has to. If you're in his position, what do? Guys like Canelo, on the other hand, and, well, both Canelo and Crawford, okay, like they both love their craft. They both love the sport of boxing. But if you ask Canelo, he wants to keep going. He loves the sport. He loves the sport that much that he wants to keep fighting, and he just doesn't want to fight anybody. He wants to fight the top echelon guys. Maybe you have a fight like Canelo versus Topuria. Maybe that's the fight that could potentially happen. And yes, people will pay big bucks, because wherever Canelo goes, he sells tickets. And if Topuria can continue to show the force that he is in the world of UFC, I think that could be a showdown definitely worth tuning into. So, yeah. And look, guys, if the fans scream loud enough, the UFC has a history of listening, right? So if Dana caves in to this fight, it could happen. But Dana's a smart man. He's a businessman. At the end of the day, it's got to make business sense. It's got to be what's best, not for Topuria, not for Crawford, not for Dana. It's all about what's best for business. And right now, the way I see it, I think Canelo would be a better matchup. Can you imagine the hype, guys, between Topuria and either of these fighters? I mean, to bring that raw aggression like he normally does in the octagon, but this time in the squared circle, like I mean, in the ring, like where he could take on the likes of either a Crawford or Canelo. Wouldn't that be absolutely epic? Right? And I mean, how would Canelo and Crawford fare against a guy like Topuria? Would they outmaster him with precision, or would it actually be a challenge for them? I mean, it would be huge for both the MMA and boxing, and maybe even bigger than McGregor and Mayweather. And guys, that fight we're talking about happened like 8 years ago, and it was definitely one for the ages. But I mean, now, like 8 years later, I think people are craving for something like that all over again. And don't forget, you got Logan Paul coming up. He's going to be taking on Gervonta Tank Davis. And Gervonta's given up. He's relinquishing his WBA title to make this fight happen. That's going to happen. It's going to be in Atlanta, but it's going to be streaming on Netflix, and that's going to happen on November 14th. So November 15th. So anyways, I'm super excited about that as well too. But that said, we still got to look at the storylines that are coming out right now. And Topuria continues to make these statements in the octagon instead of the ring. And at some point, something's got to give, right? And guys, like, look, you got Ben Askren, who's kind of chimed in on all this. And he's stepping in and saying that, you know, I think Topuria is pound for pound probably one of the greatest fighters. But I think he's barking up the wrong tree here. Man, this is exactly why these crossover debates never get old. And so when you're talking about a legend himself, right? Like Ben Askren. I mean, he was a former UFC MMA fighter, and look, he's got a loud voice, guys. And when he talks, a lot of people listen as well too, right? And he's commented on these crossover commentaries before. I mean, everybody knows about Ben. And look, something along the lines that, especially when it comes to this particular fight, that there's a possibility that this could potentially happen. And look, Topuria is legit MMA, right? And boxing isn't just striking, right? In MMA, there's no nuances. It's pure technical, it's strategy, it's mental. There's lots of footwork, and there's rules, right? And things that Topuria would have to kind of get better acquainted with. It's not just all about confidence and that animalistic hunger that you have inside of you. And it's not all about just getting in there and going animalistic or ballistic or whatever you want to call it. He's got to learn striking. He's got to learn all those things. And more importantly, he's got to learn some discipline. And this is why these two sports, although they're part of the combat sport umbrella, they are different. And McGregor was able to pull it off, you know, as we alluded to, against Mayweather. Like, he didn't win the fight, but, I mean, he held his own, you know, not bad. Absolutely. Like, I mean, if McGregor was serious, and he could have probably continued on as a boxer, you know. He definitely proved to me that he had some juice in the game, you know, especially when it came to boxing. And these crossover events, you know, they bring a lot of attention. Fans love to debate MMA versus boxing, promos, money fights, crossover events. These things sell. So from a business sense, you know, it makes a lot of sense, right? And it's not just debates and discussions and things that are happening on social media anymore. They're actually coming to life, guys. These things are coming to fruition, and things are happening behind the scenes. Right? And it's great. I totally encourage it, right? And whether it was a publicity move or what, Topuria might have had a few drinks in his system. I don't know. But definitely he called him out, and legit, you know, definitely making criticism to Terence Crawford's legacy, because he feels that with one punch he could actually knock him out. Yeah, I'm talking about Topuria knocking out Crawford. That's what Topuria thinks, right? So anyways, I think Topuria definitely has every right to throw his hat in the ring. I mean, he's undefeated. He's 17-0. He's got huge wins over strikers like Max Holloway, Volkanovski, Oliveira, Charles Oliveira, guys. He's another guy who's come back, like in grand fashion over his last fight. But he's not just a somebody. I mean, this guy, again, he's very ambitious. He's young. He's hungry, and I keep talking about that raw aggression. So Askren is actually doing the responsible thing by cautioning the jump because, coming from that world as well, he understands that, although this is a young fighter who's got everything going for him right now, he just might not be the right tree to climb up. And it's not being a hater or anything like that, but there's a lot of risks, and the risks are high. Experience versus hype, completely different, right? In technical boxing, I'm telling you, is unforgiving, right? So, I mean, if Topuria actually trained for like 6 to 12 months, just pure boxing and understanding the technicalities and all the rules and everything associated with that, is it a possibility that he could come in doing the unthinkable? I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, look at Francis Ngannou taking on Tyson Fury. That said, too, he landed a couple nice, clean shots, but it was Tyson Fury who had the best of them. And so it can happen. It depends on how serious Topuria is about taking on the likes of Crawford, possibly Canelo, or someone along those lines. It's possible that it could happen, but it really comes down to whether Dana White wants to risk it and how that could potentially look as well, because he doesn't want to tarnish his brand. He doesn't want to tarnish his industry. I mean, if he sends out his MMA fighters and they get owned in the ring by these boxers, then what does that that kind of takes a little bit of steam out of the nostalgia and the glory and the glamour associated with these MMA fighters. And again, these guys are probably some of the toughest athletes on the planet. So you got to be very, very strategic and meticulous in how you organize this kind of an event. What does this do to, like, say, Crawford or Canelo's legacy? Would this be a good move, or could this tarnish their legacy, right? So that's a lot. That's a lot to kind of look into. And if people are going to ask, and I keep talking about the conditioning and the training and everything, the prep, everything that needs to go in. Topuria is going to have to respect the sport, respect the ambition, and he has to be so confident in his abilities that he feels that he knows that he can hang with Crawford or Canelo all the way to the end, if it makes it to the last round, right? So, I mean, right now, if you had to pick, I would say Crawford wins this fight. I think Topuria could look sharp in the early rounds, but then I think it's just all boxing. I think Crawford would then just turn it on and take him to school and just walk circles around him, especially in the latter rounds. And yeah, Topuria could come explosive at him, like right off, at the sound of the buzzer when the new round starts. But then what happens for the next 3 minutes? That's a whole 10, 15 seconds potentially, and then you're gassed out. You expended all that you had, and you've got nothing left. And now the lactic acid's building up in your arms and your legs. What happens then? And you take on a guy like Canelo or Crawford, there's a chance that you're going to get knocked out if you're not able to dish it back to these guys. That's that. I think it would be great. I want to see it, but I'm going to leave that in the hands of the big guys, and I'll let Dana, Turkey, and the rest of the team kind of figure out whether or not that's even going to be a possibility. So what's your take on this, guys? Like, what do you think? Is Topuria just chasing clout here, or does he actually have a puncher's chance against somebody like Crawford or Canelo? Would you even want to see, do you even want to see that? Do you want to see UFC fighters taking on boxers and all over again? I personally would. Or do you think the UFC should stay in the world of MMA and boxing should just stay in boxing and stay in their lane? Drop your opinions and comments below, guys. Let's debate this one. You guys already know where I stand on this one. So Topuria is not backing down. Crawford's obviously shrugging it off. and Dana White isn't exactly opening the door. Personally, I think it's a long shot, but Tupuria's fire and confidence and his raw aggression sometimes can get people listening. This is why we love this, guys. This is why we love this sport. This is why I love doing this, because I get the opportunity to talk about super fights, and a lot of these super fights now could potentially come to fruition. So if you're into these kind of breakdowns, please hit the smash button, subscribe, and join us here on Duality 7X for more fight talk, hot takes, and all the biggest stories coming from the world of MMA, the UFC, the WWE, and boxing. Let's see this conversation rolling, guys. I want to hear your guys' thoughts and comments. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you guys on the next one.